Today, confidential 2026 performance data leaked from inside the Bahrain paddock, and it completely changes what we thought we knew. Ferrari is the fastest car over 1 lap. McLaren completed almost 150 laps with 0 major failures. Red Bull broke down, and Max Verstappen did not even get in the car. Aston Martin suffered another engine failure, and now has the lowest mileage on the entire grid. This is not speculation. This is fuel-corrected pace. Long-run degradation numbers, internal reliability reports, the kind of information teams fight to keep hidden. And if these figures are accurate, the championship battle may already be tilting in one direction. Stay with me, because one detail from today's data leak reveals who actually understands a 2026 car and who is just pretending. And if you want the real story before race 1 even begins, subscribe now. The first thing the leaked data confirms is this. Week 1 was a smokescreen. Week 2 is the real reveal. The track in Bahrain is now fully rubbered in. Grip levels are higher. Temperatures are more stable. Programs are no longer basic system checks. They are performance simulations. And that changes everything. Ferrari came out immediately on low fuel. Charles Leclerc pushed the car hard on short runs using the C3 compound. The sector breakdown shows extremely strong traction out of slow corners. The rear stays planted. The car rotates aggressively, but does not snap. On pure 1-lap pace, Ferrari currently holds the benchmark reference. But here is the detail buried in the data. Their performance window is narrow. When fuel load increases, the rear tires begin to degrade faster than expected. The drop-off is progressive, not dramatic at first, but noticeable over extended stints. By the midpoint of a long-run simulation, lap times start drifting upward more quickly than McLaren's. That suggests something fundamental. Ferrari has optimized for peak grip, not necessarily for endurance. And that is a strategic decision. Because in 2026, with heavier cars and more complex energy deployment, rear tire management becomes even more critical. If you burn the rear too early, you sacrifice race pace. If you protect it too much, you lose qualifying position. This is the balance Ferrari must solve. Now contrast that with McLaren. Their data does not show spikes. It shows stability. Long runs remain within tight deltas. Minimal balance complaints over radio. No unexpected overheating cycles. And most importantly, no system failures across extended mileage. That is not exciting, but it is powerful, because understanding your car early allows development to move faster. Every clean lap feeds simulation models. Every consistent stint refines race strategy. While some teams are troubleshooting, McLaren is optimizing. And here is where the leaked numbers become truly significant. On fuel-corrected averages over longer runs, McLaren is closer to Ferrari than the headline lap times suggest. Not faster on a single lap, but closer than most expected. Which means if Ferrari's degradation issue is not resolved, the real race pace gap may be smaller than it looks. And that brings us to the most uncomfortable data of all. Red Bull's limited mileage today leaves a blind spot. Without consistent long-run data, their true performance remains partially hidden. And when data is missing, uncertainty grows, which means the next session is no longer routine. It becomes critical. Now we need to talk about the team everyone is watching, Red Bull, because this is where the leaked information becomes uncomfortable. The official lap count tells part of the story. Fewer than 50 laps completed across the entire day. But the deeper issue is not just mileage. It is timing. The hydraulic failure happened early in the morning session. That immediately eliminated structured testing plans. Correlation work stopped. Long-run simulations were canceled. 3 hours in the garage is not just 3 hours lost. It disrupts the entire program sequence. And here is what the leaked notes suggest. The failure was linked to pressure instability in the steering and gearbox hydraulic system. That is not cosmetic. That affects driver feel, gear shift precision, differential behavior under load. You cannot evaluate true pace if core systems are unstable. Now add another layer. Max Verstappen did not drive. Officially, the program was adjusted. Unofficially, paddock chatter suggests he did not want to run the car until the issue was fully resolved. Whether that is precaution or confidence does not matter. What matters is this. On the most representative day of testing so far, Red Bull did not collect meaningful long-run data with their lead driver. And in a new regulation cycle, adaptation time matters. These cars deploy electrical energy differently. They carry more mass. They react differently to ride height changes. Drivers need repetition to find the limit. Without it, even the best driver in the world enters the first race with unanswered questions. But here is the part most people are missing. When a dominant team loses early testing time, development pace slows. Because development relies on validation, and validation requires track data. While McLaren ran nearly 150 laps refining setups, Red Bull was repairing. While Ferrari gathered degradation metrics, Red Bull was diagnosing systems. That creates a gap. Maybe temporary, maybe small, but real. And if tomorrow brings even a minor recurring issue, that gap widens. Now consider the psychological side. Red Bull built its recent dominance on mechanical reliability and operational precision. Today, that image cracked. Even if they fix it overnight, the narrative shifts. For the first time in years, they are reacting, not dictating. And when the defending champion reacts instead of controls, rivals gain belief. Belief changes how aggressively teams push development. Belief changes how drivers approach the first corner of race one. But if Red Bull's situation raises eyebrows, Aston Martin's situation raises alarms. Because what is happening there is not just lost time. It is structural instability. And that could have consequences far beyond testing. Aston Martin is not dealing with a minor setback. They are facing a pattern. And patterns in testing are dangerous. Fernando Alonso began the session with a clear objective: build mileage, evaluate balance, push progressively toward race simulation. Instead, the engine note changed mid-run. Subtle at first, then decisive. Shut down. Fewer than 30 laps completed before the Honda power unit failed again. And this is not an isolated glitch. This follows earlier cooling concerns from week one. According to internal notes circulating in the paddock, the issue may involve deeper combustion instability or turbo-related stress under sustained load. That is not something you fix with a quick software patch. When mechanics bring internal inspection tools to examine the combustion chamber, that signals concern about physical damage. Physical damage means component replacement. Component replacement during testing means lost understanding. And lost understanding at this stage is critical, because these 2026 engines operate under tighter margins than ever before. Higher electrical deployment, more aggressive energy recovery, greater thermal concentration within compact packaging. If cooling flow is even slightly compromised, temperatures spike quickly. That affects durability. That affects long-run reliability. And most importantly, that affects driver confidence. Alonso thrives on rhythm. He builds speed through repetition, through feeling tire behavior evolve, through understanding energy deployment lap after lap. Without consistent mileage, that rhythm disappears. And without rhythm, adaptation slows. Now compare mileage totals. McLaren has accumulated clean data across 2 full weeks. Ferrari has both short-run and long-run references. Red Bull at least understands where their hydraulic issue appeared. Aston Martin, however, has the lowest accumulated lap count of the grid so far. That means less tire data, less race simulation work, less correlation between simulation and track. In a new regulation era, that deficit compounds quickly, because development cycles are short. You either identify weaknesses early, or you carry them into the first race. And here is the psychological impact. When a team hides the car behind screens repeatedly during testing, uncertainty spreads. Inside the garage, inside the paddock, across competitors. Even if they solve it overnight, the perception shifts. Instead of asking how fast Aston Martin can be, people are asking whether they can finish. That is a different conversation, and is happening before the season even begins. But here is where the story takes an even more strategic turn. Because while some teams are battling reliability, others are quietly positioning themselves to capitalize. And one midfield team, in particular, might be preparing a surprise that very few are ready for. Williams is the team nobody expected to talk about today. And that is exactly why they matter. Because while the front-runners dealt with failures, degradation, and uncertainty, Williams executed a clean program. Nearly 100 laps completed. No red flags triggered by them. No visible mechanical panic. Just structure mileage. But here is what makes the leaked data interesting. GPS traces show extremely competitive straight line efficiency. Low drag. High terminal speed at the end of the main straight. That means the car slices through the air efficiently, which is critical under these new aerodynamic regulations. In Bahrain, where overtaking relies heavily on straight line performance, that matters. A car that is difficult to pass becomes strategically powerful. And there is more. Carlos Sainz reportedly feels immediately comfortable with the platform. Comfort is not a headline statistic, but it translates directly into lap time. When a driver trusts the rear on corner exit, he commits earlier to throttle. When he trusts braking stability, he attacks entry speed. That confidence compounds across a race stint. Now combine that with low drag characteristics. You get a car that may not dominate qualifying, but can defend aggressively in race trim.